Stories.
Once upon a time,
there were two brothers.
One rich,
one poor.
The
poor brother was a carpenter. He was a master of his trade, but
somehow
he was always unlucky.
His house burned down,
and his cow died, and
he was so clumsy,
he cut his hand.
Badly.
He couldn't work for a long time after that.
His wife was a fine gardener, but
always,
just when the crop was looking good,
here came the bugs, or hail,
or drought,
or deer,
or some other thievish neighbor.
His kids were always getting sick, and he had
so many of them.
Because he couldn't work. Every day the family had less to eat. They got poorer.
And poorer.
And poorer until they had nothing. The rich brother, on the other hand,
had a big house and no children. Because things went well for him, he just kept on doing better.
And better.
And better. Wheat grew in his fields.
His cows had calves.
And at his house there was always plenty to eat and drink.
He and his wife constantly went about in the finest of clothes. And in the wintertime, they had warm coats, they had waterproof boots.
Now, who would deny them something like that?
We should all be so lucky.
But the rich brother was stingy, and he never helped his poor brother out at all.
Mind you, the carpenter never asked for help. He was proud. He always wanted to do for himself.
And in fact, if the truth be known, the two brothers rarely saw each other except for important holidays and family weddings.
Then, one Christmas at the carpenter's house, there were no
Christmas presents. There was no Christmas dinner. In fact, they had no food at all.
They hadn't eaten in days.
The children huddled around the stove crying from hunger, and their mother paced back and forth trying to hold back her own tears.
Finally, she told her husband,
"You've got to go see your brother. He has everything. We have nothing. It's Christmas. Maybe he'll give the children something to eat."
Carpenter looked at his hungry kids, wrestled with his pride, and he did. He left. He went to see his brother.
When he got there, everything was
such a commotion,
in
baking,
hubbub,
broiling,
such a
frying,
commotion
stewing.
and
Guests
screaming.
were expected to the Christmas dinner. There's a real feast being prepared.
The carpenter wished his brother,
"Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Brother, I can see that your table's loaded down with food, and I can hear and smell that there's more being prepared in the kitchen beyond. Could you very kindly spare just a little food for my hungry kids? We haven't had anything to eat in the house for 3 days.
Well, of course. I'd love to. But we are expecting a lot of people over, and what if there wasn't enough food for them? Trying to imagine how embarrassing that would be for me. I'd like to ask you in, but there's no room for you at the table. I know. You can stand here outside the door, and after everybody has eaten and drunk and gone back home, I bet we can find you a leftover or two."
Carpenter's heart filled with rage and shame. He wanted more than anything else just to turn around and go back home. But he remembered his hungry kids, conquered his pride, and waited. He stood
silently
outside the door,
hungry himself,
and listened all evening as his
brother's guest
ate and talked and drank
and sang and ate some more,
laughed,
and
in general
had a very good time. It was late in the evening when the last guest finally left, and the carpenter was able to come out from behind the door.
"Well, brother, your guests have eaten drunk. They've all gone home. Please, now, give me some food for my hungry kids."
"Yes, they have certainly eaten, all right. So much there's really not much left for me and my wife for the rest of the holidays. So I'm sorry, I can't give you anything."
"Well, give me a drink of something anyway, or I'll never get home. I'm so weak. I'm cold. My knees are trembling."
"Well, of course. Look, there's a cup right there on the doorstep. Out by the barn, there's a big barrel of water. You can help yourself. But don't forget to bring the cup back."
No. Carpenter took the cup down to the barrel.
He helped himself to the water.
It tasted like wine.
It was the only thing he'd had to swallow all day.
But it was, after all, still only water. He was terribly hungry.
He took the cup back up to the doorstep and left it there. Then he started off across the fields towards home.
After a while, just to take his mind off of his stomach and his troubles in general, he began to sing. And then, And then he heard
And then
somebody
he heard
singing
somebody
with him.
singing with him. First one voice,
He sang a little louder.
then another,
He walked a little faster.
and lots of
What was
voices
going
all
on?
high
He didn't
and
know
thin,
anybody
all
who
piping
sounded
along
like that.
with him.
He looked
Some
over
in
his
harmony,
shoulder. There was nobody there.
some
Nobody at
off
all.
key.
What, was
some
somebody
sang
trying to
high,
play some
some
kind of
sang
trick
low.
on him? He
They
stopped
kept
singing.
And the voices stopped too. He looked around.
Big moonlit night. You could see snow sparkles all over everything.
He was all alone.
Started singing again.
Again the voices joined him,
I think I must have got drunk on that water.
he thought. Then he called out,
Hey, who is that singing with me?
It's us.
Well, who are you?
We
Are
the Imps of Misfortune.
Well, what manner of beings are you? I can't see anybody.
You can't see us.
But we can see you.
We live all around you.
We never desert you.
Never.
Whither thou goest, we go too. What are you doing around me all the time?
asked the carpenter,
And they told him, we harm you.
And make sure you never prosper.
When you try to work hard,
We make you clumsy.
so you ruin the wood.
Or hurt yourself.
When you want to buy something,
We make sure the prices go sky high. When you turn around and want to
sell
sell,
something,
you may have
the
noticed.
price goes right down into the dirt.
Who do you think does that?
We do.
It's very hard work.
We find it rewarding.
We ruined that box.
were making for the mayor.
And we burned your house down. And
Oh, yeah.
making your children sick too.
Are you going to be with me for long?
asked the carpenter.
And they told him, we will be with you until
you
you die. And then
When you're dead,
we'll
jump
get into
into
the coffin with you. What?
Said the poor carpenter.
Really? Even after I'm dead, you're going to lay down in the coffin with me?
oh yes,
right.
we'll
We'll
get
get
in right away.
Carpenter no longer sang. He walked on,
Silently.
deep in thought.
It was very late when he got home, but all his children were up waiting for him.
As he came in the door,
crowded
they
around,
crowded
putting their
around.
hands in his
Daddy,
pocket.
where's our daddy? What you got for us, Daddy?
And he told them,
My dears, I have nothing for you. Everybody come up here and sit around me. I'll tell you what happened. My brother made me stand outside his door all night long while he and his friends feasted inside, and all I got was a drink of water. Light the lanterns, dear wife. I gotta make a coffin. I've decided I'm gonna die.
Oh, honey.
No, there's no point in waiting any longer. I can see that now. You'd be better off without me.
Oh, honey, don't even think of things like that.
Don't
do that,
Said
Daddy.
his wife and children.
come to
Get
bed,
some
honey.
Go to bed, Daddy. Go to bed now.
You'll feel much better in the morning.
But he paid no attention to them. He just locked himself up in his workshop, and he started sawing planks, hammering them together.
Finally, he called out,
Misfortunes, are you there?
Yes, sir.
You're really going to follow me, even down into the coffin?
Of course we will.
So the carpenter finished that heavy oak coffin with a thick oak lid.
Drilled a dozen fat screws in the lid.
Then he called out,
Misfortunes,
Present.
climb into the coffin. Tell me how the lid fits. If it's good and tight, I'll get into the coffin with you.
Okay.
Sounds good.
In we go.
They said.
Carpenter waited for a little while and said,
Well, Misfortunes, have you all climbed in?
Yes, sir.
You're all in there now. You haven't left some of you lying around the house somewhere.
Don't worry.
They said,
We're all in here.
Good. So tell me how the lid
quickly he
fits.
screwed down the lid.
It's dark in here.
It's kind of stuffy, too. Take a good look now. Make sure there's no chinks or air holes.
No,
They said.
there are no chinks or air holes.
Open the lid.
Lie down with us right
here.
here.
Oh, no. I had enough of you. You could lie there by yourselves.
And he went and got a shovel and told his wife and children,
You stay there.
Daddy, don't go to bed.
Oh, children, your father has gone mad.
But he paid no attention. He just hoisted
the coffin
up onto his back.
and carried it a long, long way into the forest.
There he dug a deep hole, carefully
Lowered the coffin full of misfortunes.
down into the pit.
And he filled the hole with dirt,
Shoveled snow all over the top so you couldn't see anything.
and he headed off for home, happier than he'd ever been.
You can stop crying, everybody. I'm back.
And he told his wife and children everything that had happened.
Now,
He said.
finally, our life can begin.
And indeed, from that moment on, things got better for them. Their children are no longer sickly, but grew strong. The wife's gardens flourished.
The carpenter suddenly found that he had a lot of work, and by the end of the year, he'd saved up quite a bit of money.
Enough to build them a fine new house.
And they bought a horse.
And a cow.
Then, one day,
The rich brother just happened to be riding through the village, and he thought he'd go on over to see whether his poor brother had died from hunger yet.
how
he
he
stared.
stared when he saw
A new house
a garden full of vegetables.
and a horse.
And a cow.
The more he looked, the more irritated he became,
Hey, everybody, look who's here. Come on, we're going to have dinner.
said the carpenter.
And as they were eating, he told his brother everything that had happened.
The rich brother waited until the carpenter's wife had left the room.
Then he said,
Misfortunes, huh?
yeah.
Boy, that's some story, all right.
Well, it's not just a story, it's what happened. I'm telling you what happened.
Yeah, of course, of course. Show me where you buried him.
Well, okay. But remember, nobody else can ever know, and the misfortunes must never be dug up.
So later that afternoon, the two brothers rode
Rode.
deep into the heart of
The
the
forest where the misfortunes were buried.
The rich brother looked around.
memorizing the place.
Then he rode home, got a shovel, came back, and
dug him up. Quickly, he unscrewed the lid of the coffin.
Hey, Misfortunes, anybody still alive down in there?
Some of us are, I guess. Oh, some of us have died.
Feeling very well myself.
Well, up and at 'em, right away now. Go and live with my brother again. Without you, he's getting lazy and irresponsible. Make him poor and miserable again.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, 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 no.
No, 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 no.
We're not going to live with
Not
him.
with him.
He's a bad man.
Bad.
He closed us up in this
He
coffin.
buried us.
But you
You
dug us up.
You set us free.
You're a nice
You're a
man.
good man. We're gonna live with you.
The rich brother was
But he
horrified.
didn't want the misfortunes living with him.
He jumped on his horse
He
and rode
rode
off.
fast as he could.
Misfortunes
Kept
kept right up with
with
him.
him.
Tripped up his horse.
He went lame.
Had to walk the rest of the way home.
Now at last the rich brother began to know everything that the poor brother had had to go through.
His house burned down. Suddenly, all his cows died. Nothing grew in his fields. And finally, he had to go and ask his brother for bread.
The carpenter continued to prosper and ended by becoming quite wealthy.
He always was a good-hearted man.
Even though he had so many children to support,
He always helped his brother
as
whenever
much as
he
he
could,
could,
whether it was Christmas
or
or
not.
not. And that,
That's
my friends,
The end
is
of
that.
that.